Hi, everybody. We're going to go over, this is the introduction to the Odyssey. The Odyssey is a huge book. You can't just sit and read the whole thing. Nobody ever just sits and reads. The ancient Greeks didn't sit and just listen to the whole thing. So we're going to go over the origin and how it works and all that real quick. I do have notes that I'll take pictures of and post in the notes section of your Google Classroom. Again, you'll have to learn how to read cursive in order to read them, but now's a great time. So Homer was credited with collecting all of the stories about the war. The war was the Trojan War, where, Helen was kidnapped and taken, and so the Greeks got together and went to try to go get her back and all that stuff. So Homer was the guy credited with doing that. He was we would call him, the people that would go around and sing and entertain people. So it's an epic poem. It rhymed in the native language, and he would go around and tell these stories. Now, he would not tell the whole story in one sitting. It's too big, it's too long. So he would travel around and he would probably, talk about what was going on in the story a little bit and introduce it, and then go into the part he was actually going to recite for them that day. He'd probably spend about 2-3 days in each city before he moved on. So as a ancient Greek, you probably wouldn't have heard the whole story all in one sitting anyway. You would have had to wait till he came back to tell a different part of the story later. So to just sit and read it all, it wouldn't give you the true experience of how the Greeks did it anyway. So we're not going to just sit and read it all. I will assign certain sections. I tried to find a PDF that had the lines written in it, but I couldn't find it. So I'll figure out a way to make sure that you're reading the sections that you need to read. You're just going to have to bear with me here. So epic poems, you know that they are long. They're used to teach virtues. They're used to teach a lesson. And of course, when you're talking about heroes, you have to look at, the fight that the hero is doing and the monsters that he's fighting, but also look for those items where there's the monster inside of you too. The internal struggle also is part of it, which poor Odysseus has so many internal struggles, and poor guy, he was just not. Poseidon had it out for him. So if we start before in the Trojan War, so the Odyssey is Odysseus's trek home. The Iliad was Homer's epic poem about the actual war, where Achilles dragged Homer. Gosh, what was his name? Hector, where all that stuff. Anyway, that was a whole different epic poem, and I'm not going to go into that one today. But so that you know, when Odysseus was propositioned by Agamemnon and Menelaus to come fight in the Trojan War, he didn't want to. He thought it was ridiculous that men were going to war over an unfaithful woman. He thought it was not worth doing. He thought it was stupid. Now, he had to go because he had made alliances with Menelaus and Agamemnon and their city-states, and so he had to go. So he pretended that he couldn't go. He pretended he was crazy. People joke he pretended he was crazy to avoid the draft. He didn't want to go. So when Agamemnon and Menelaus visited him, they took his son Telemachus and they threw him in front of the plow to see if he was faking or not. Well, of course, Odysseus wasn't going to let his son get killed by the plow, so he had to, come out of his pretending to be crazy and go save his son. And so then he was proved not to be crazy and he had to go to war. So he went to the war. He fought in the Trojan War alongside, all the heroes and stuff. Um, he was actually the one in the Iliad to think up the Trojan War or the Trojan horse gag. He was the one that developed the trick that won them the war. So it makes sense that he would be the one they would focus on the journey home. So the war lasted 10 years, and Odysseus' journey home lasted 10 years. So he was gone for 20 years from home. He wasn't happy about it. When we look at epics, we have what are called epic similes or Homeric similes. Now these compare the heroic task to an everyday task. So because the story is made up and there's a lot of gods involved, it's to try to make it understandable to people who would never have come across these difficult tasks. So for an example, there's a part where Athena brushes away an arrow from Menelaus to save his life. And they say that it's like a mother brushes a fly from her baby. So it was very easy for Athena to do. It was a caring gesture. There's a lot of Homeric or epic similes in the Odyssey. So look for those. The Odyssey in total is 11,300 lines. There's no way in an oral tradition that would have been done in one setting. And once it was written out, I mean, you can read it if you want to. It's in your Google Classroom, but it's a lot. It's a lot. So other epics, if you're curious, epics aren't just for the Greeks. Other epics can be found. There's the Aeneid. That was an epic from Rome. France has the Song of Roland. Italy, the Divine Comedy, which is, I love that. It's one of my favorites. But if you ever read the Divine Comedy, that's Dante with his Inferno and Paradiso and all those. If you ever read it, you want to find a copy that has footnotes explaining things, because he put in a lot of personal political things in there that are really, really interesting and funny as long as you know about them. But if you just read it straight through without any background, you lose it. Mesopotamia had Gilgamesh, which I loved that one too. That was great. I'm going to pronounce this wrong. India has the Mahabharata. Sorry for butchering that one. And the Ramayana. Mali. I'm going to butcher this one too. Sundayata from Mali. If you really like epics, and they can be really interesting, but again, the footnotes and the background knowledge are really important to really understand them. The long journey trope, there's tons of long journey books. Lots of kids' books have the long journey book. If the incredible journey with the dogs and the cats, that was a long journey trope. Moby Dick, The Hobbit, Wizard of Oz, Star Wars, the one where you start out your journey and it sucks and it's long, and that's a lot of our, especially hero movies and books have that in it. So why do we still read it? What about it connects to our everyday life? We're still people. We still go to war. We still go to war over things that we don't always agree with, but because it's our countrymen, or because we have allegiances to these people, we go to war over it. The trip home is a difficult thing. Getting home is a difficult thing. Getting your loved ones to trust you and know you again, that's a difficult thing. And all of these things are visited in the Odyssey. So we know that it has always been the human condition to go away from home, have a difficult job to do, and come back and try to get things back to normal. that post-war disillusionment that our soldiers face, that many of your parents have faced, will face, are facing. It's something that is worth looking at, is worth exploring and seeing things in our daily lives where we have hard times with things, and how we get back to normal, how we make that journey back to, how we get our mindset back to normal life. I can't think of any instance right now where we're dealing with anything difficult. Maybe the quarantine from the coronavirus. Think about right now, we're fighting, we're getting through it, we're working on it, and we will have to eventually get back to a normal life, get back to our daily life, but will it ever be normal again? Will we ever be able to get back to going to school and going to work and not have this time, this difficult quarantine time, affect us and change how we are, how we see things? It's worth looking at those things. It is right now in the video where I'm going to give you an Easter egg. If you have made it this far and are still watching, you follow directions, but also you deserve some credit. So if you email me the word Easter Bunny, I will give you credit for watching the video. Just a little bonus for those of you that actually do the work and are willing to sit through me going on and on and on. And it's not as fun as having you guys ask questions and be interested in it, because this is some really great stuff that I think you guys would be, your questions would be fantastic, and we would get to expand our knowledge and know so much more if we could just be meeting in class. So you deserve that little extra boost. So to wrap up, we're not going to just read the Odyssey. We're not just going to look at the whole epic poem, all 11,300 lines, and just read it straight through. I'm going to pick out the parts that speak most to what we're studying, that speak most to what we are looking at. Interesting parts that we can dissect and really use them to help you in your thinking and in your problem solving and understanding daily life. So with that, I am going to sign off now. If you have any questions, email me. You can message me, but that's harder to get back. I will also, we'll also have a Google Meet session where we can get together and talk and ask questions about it too. I'm trying not to be too hard on your assignments on you, but I do need to get a grade every week. So please keep up with your schoolwork and don't get behind. If you need help with other stuff, let me know that too. I'm here. I have house to clean, and I would love excuses not to have to do that. So I hope to see you guys soon, and I will see you next time as we start book 1 of the Odyssey.